Okay, so we're working on the keychain from the workshop last night. So this is pretty basic. It involves two techniques, which is working with one needle like you have in your kit. And so basically how it goes is you'll have your backing material, and that is what we're going to use instead of leather at the back. This is pleather, and it's much easier to work with, especially as a beginner. And we have our piece of felt that we're beading our flag on. So here we have the design. There is one bugle bead on the left and on the right of the flag. Now this is helpful because we have 10 rows side by side that make the width of the flag, and then we have one row at the top and one row at the bottom. So all our rows are going to lean on each other and the beads will line up. And so to have it look nice and tidy, it is important to try to keep your beads, your lines starting about a bead's width apart and all lined up. Okay, so we'll get started. I have my needle here. It's double threaded, and it's very important to have at the end at least a double, triple knot, because if you just have one knot, the thread is going to slip through your felt and not catch. And so we don't want that. Now, to begin, for that first row of bugle beads, you're going to want to start close to the edge, close enough, maybe a centimeter, so you have enough room to bead your entire flag. Now, don't worry about spacing too much, because whatever extra felt we have at the end, we're going to cut to match our back layer that we'll have glued together, and then we're going to edge all around, but only after having cut off whatever excess we have. So now for our first row, I'm picking up 4 bugle beads. Now in your kits there would have been 2 long bugle beads. However, I am out of those longer ones, so 4 of these smaller ones is the equivalent. And so I've got 4 bugle beads all lined up, and I'm going back through my felt. What you'll notice is that when I go back into the felt, I always leave an extra millimeter or 2. Because the reason for that is when you're tacking your beads, like I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to come back through the felt on one side of that thread, and I'll go back down on the other side. And now I've just tacked down my first bugle bead. And then I'll go to the next one, come out on one side, and back down on the other. And then finally, our last one, come out and back down on the other side. So now our first row is complete. It's solid. It's not going anywhere. It's sturdy. If you happen to get one of the long bugle beads, another possibility is to come out again at the bottom where you started, pass your needle through your entire bugle bead. And then back down. So basically what we just did is we secured it extra firmly. And so now that's definitely not going anywhere. And it's nice and tight. So now we're ready to start our next row. So the next row is going to start, I'd say about 3 millimeters next to the top of our bugle bead here. And our first row is going to be 9 red beads. So I'm picking up 9. Now, what you'll notice again is when you're tacking down your beads, they are going to spread apart a little bit. So we always make up for that by leaving just a little extra space, a millimeter or 2 at the end. Because now I'm going to go back 2 beads back. So right here, come out on one side and back down on the other. And then go 2 beads back, always every second bead. Because by tacking down every second bead, that's what makes your beadwork nice and flat and look nice and tight. And you want to keep an even tension as well. So that means when you are pulling on your thread after tacking down your bead, you want to give it a little, just a little bit of a tug, but not too tight, because you don't want your felt bunching up. And then finally, back to the start, and we'll tack that down there. And there we go. So there's our second row. It's nice and tight. And so that is the one needle technique. There is one more way of doing this, like I showed everyone last night, and that is by picking up 3 beads at the time. And so the first way that I just showed everyone, that's the way I bead. I find I'm much quicker when I do it that way. But depending if you're going around curves or whatever, you might want to do the way that I'll show you now. And so we'll come out again about a bead's width further, so about 3-4 millimeters, so we can start our next row. And so for this, we'll have 1 black, 7 red, and then green at the bottom. Actually, that's not what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to pick up 3 beads. So you're going to cut that little part out, and I'll start over. Okay, so now we're ready to do our second row. So I'm going to pick up my first 3 beads, which is a black and 2 red. Now, my beads are nice and flat. I push them to the end there and put my needle down. Now I'm going back 2 beads. So after that black one, right here in the middle, and coming back towards myself through those last 2. And I'm pushing a little bit with my nail. And there we go. We're ready for 3 more beads. So for that 3rd row, it's going to be 3 more red beads. 1, 2, 3. Give it a little push. Needle down. Go backwards 2 beads and come out in the middle here. There we go. And through those last 2 towards me. Pull my thread a little bit and push with my nails. Now you see how all the beads are lined up. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And we do our last 3 beads, which will be 2 red and 1 green. Go down, go back 2 beads, come out in the middle, and go through those last 2, and give it a little push. Always just a little push at the end. And go back down. And so those are 2 different techniques, but the result is the same. Because here in the 1st row, we tack down every 2nd bead. And in the 2nd row, we tack down every 2nd bead as well. But we just did it by going in loops, essentially, through the beads. And so now, moving on to my 3rd row, which I'm going to start by taking my needle out, 1 bead's width away, straight next to it. And so for this row, I'm going back to the method that I did for the 1st row here. And so I'm picking up my 9 beads and I'll tack them every 2nd bead, and I'll do that for all my 10 rows. And so one bead too many, and that's okay. I'm just going to there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There we go. That's why that wasn't looking right. All right, so we got 3 rows out of 10 done. So now that's our 4th row. Got all 9 beads and down. All right, so now 5th row. Another way to keep everything nice and straight and even also is when you're tacking down every 2nd bead, just make sure you're lined up with the others. And so everything in a straight line. And so now I'm tacking down at the 4th bead. And when I go back down, I'm lined up here. I'm going down right here. And one thing That is important. Always, always keep your tension even in your thread. It makes a big difference in the look of your beadwork afterwards. And also, just don't be too tight with it by pulling too hard. Now, I'm going to take advantage of the fact that my thread is short and I don't have much left to show everybody how to change your thread. Okay, so now I made sure to have a couple inches left back here, and this is what it looks like at the back. It's nice and clean. Okay, so I'm putting my beadwork down and I'm making a knot. And it's good to do a few knots. I'd say at least 2 or 3. There we go. 3 knots. Snip. There we are. So I'm going to thread my needle. And I'm sorry for everyone that had a tiny little thin needle because they were hell to thread last night. But this one is a good size. Again, always 2-3 knots. 1, 2, and 3. Snip that tail, and we're good to go. All right, so now we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows, and so we've got 5 more, I think. And so I was really happy with how things worked out last night. I was so happy to see how many people showed up to the workshop. And I had an idea for another workshop that was to make a beaded pop socket for your phone. And so it's a simple project. Basically, you're just beading 1 or 2 lines in a circle around your cabochon, which can be the image of our choice, which of course would be a Palestine flag or a cute little Palestinian sunbird. And so I'm thinking perhaps I'm going to be putting together kits that I can make a video with. And that way people can order the kit and the proceeds would go to Gaza. And so I'm hoping to get that together very soon. And I think that would be awesome. And so that way you'd be able to get your own kit and do it at home with a video. And so that's something I'm working on right now. See if I can make that happen. So keep an eye out for that. All right, so now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 rows of our flag, 2 more rows, and then we will put the 2 bugle beads, our top row, bottom row, and then I'll show you how to edge your project. So 2 more rows. Okay, so we have our 10 rows all done, and last row is going to be my bugle beads. And so the bugle beads is not like the long ones or like the other beads. You're going to want to tack down in between each one, so you're not going to skip any or do every second one like the other beads, just to make it sturdier. And so one side. Okay, so we got our 10 rows of our flag. We've got our bugle beads before and after. And the last thing we're doing before edging is going to be 1 row of beads up here and 1 row of beads down here. So we're going to come out at this corner and string up our, I believe it was about 13 beads to get from one corner to the other. And I have those beads right here. And so let's see how many it'll take. Should be about 13 of the beads of this size. All right, so you notice 13 beads seems to not be enough. But if we were to put an extra bead in there, we might overcrowd it. And so it's always good to leave a little bit of extra room for the fact that your beads spread. And what I do have handy, if ever, like now, I put in an extra bead. If you happen to be overcrowded, and you know you're overcrowded when you just have like too many beads on there for what you need, I keep a tool like this and I will snap one. And so that way it's not a big deal if you have a bit too many. You can just break one and you'll be fine. Pliers will work too if you squeeze really hard. And so same thing, gonna tack down every second bead. And then Damien, you can speed this part up as I tack every second bead. So you guys, last night I had a whole spiel, a whole speech ready, but I think we wanted to be respectful and be done in time to let the panel speak. And so I'm sorry about that. I really wanted to have a talk with you guys about beadwork and what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. But there will be other opportunities. I'm hoping to have another workshop soon. So keep an eye out for that. I just think it would be such a great opportunity for conversation. So hopefully we'll soon. Again, my thread is almost done. So I'm going to knot it off, start a new one. Oh, okay. All right, so we've got all of this done now. Like when our thread runs out, we're just going to make a knot, another knot, and knit. Okay, now when we are making a pin, it's very important that your work be sturdy. So to do that, what I often will do is I will glue a layer of thick cardboard in between, and then glue my backing on there, and from there cut all around so everything's the same length. So that's what I'm going to do now. I have my hot glue gun here, and what I like to do is write a message on the inside. So as always, free Palestine. Goes without saying. So now what you want to do is cut around the excess of the felt and take it off. So I'd say about, I don't know, 2-3 millimeters. Okay, so I've got my hot glue here. So this is not absolutely necessary, and especially not for a keychain, but definitely if you are making a pin, a medallion, it's more important that it be sturdy, and so you definitely want to have something in there just to make it a little bit sturdier. So now you're going to get your cardboard, same size. All right, more glue. And again, push that down so it spreads out. All right, so now everything will be the same size and secure together while we're edging. So there we go. Our back is on there, it's secure, and I like to round out my edges just a little bit, just so it's not as sharp. All right, so we're ready for edging. So I've got my edging beads here, And I am going to put some fresh thread on my needle. Okay, now we're ready to do our edging. So it's important to have enough thread that you'll be able to edge all around your project. And so in this case, I've got my thread doubled up. I decided to have about 1 meter long. So that should be good enough. Okay. All right. So now to begin with, I'm going to open here a little bit and push my needle out so that it comes out on the side of my beadwork. Okay, so push it out. And what that's doing is it's going to hide our little knot here. And so that's not going to be visible. And now, right next to where we came out, we're going to push through the cardboard and the felt. And now we're ready to begin edging. Because you see the thread is coming out in between the layers here. Because let's say I had pushed my needle all the way through to the back and I would have started picking up beads and edging. When you look at the piece, the beads would be leaning backwards because that's where that thread is coming out of. So that's why it's important to come out in between your layers. And so when you're edging, when you do the first stitch, you're going to pick up 2 beads. Now what I'm showing you will be a single stack edging, but keep in mind you can double stack your beads, but in this case we're going to do a single stack. So okay, I'm picking up 2 beads, 1, 2. Now I'm going to go about, I'd say, I don't know, 3 millimeters further and push through all my layers to the back. Okay, so I pulled my thread and now I'm taking my needle and I'm going up through that second bead. And I like to give it a little tug. And now, from this point on, we'll be picking up 1 bead at a time. So, 1 more. And we're just going to keep doing the same thing till we've gone all around the project back to where we started. So, about a bead's width away, I push through both layers. And I come back up through my bead. Pull my thread, and again, don't be afraid to give it a little tug. And there we go. And from here, just pick up 1 bead at a time and keep going till I've gotten all around. And something I wanted to show everybody too is when I'm doing one of these pins and I'm using white thread like I am right now. A nice thing too at the end is I take a Sharpie and I make my thread that's coming out show. You can do that at the end, obviously, once your project is all edged, but it is a bit more pleasing to the eye. So keep in mind that that's always possible if you don't want to be looking at white thread. So now we've gone all around our flag and there's just room for about, I'd say, maybe 2 more beads. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to finish up your edging. So I'm going to put 1 bead here. And now our last bead. Oh, actually, no. I think we can finish it right here. So now, that first bead, when I reach the end here, I'm going to bring my needle down through the first bead that we put on. I'm going to push through both layers to the back. And from there, I'll go back up through that first bead. And so if we wanted to just have it like this right now, what I would do is push through that second bead and come out right here and tie a little knot. But since we want to have a little hoop here so that we can put this onto a key ring. So because of that, I am going to go to this bead here. Okay, so I'm going to go down through here. And then back up the next one. and then down through here and up the next one. And from here, I'll pick up, I'd say, about 6 beads. And skip this bead and go into the second one. And push through both layers to the back. And we want this to be nice and sturdy. So from the back, we'll go back up through our whole loop. And down through here. And through both layers to the back. And there we go. We have our little hoop from where we can either attach a hoop or put this on a key ring. So now that I'm at the back, I am going to make a little double or triple knot. So 1, 2, 3, and then I like to push it through to the front and snip it. And so all you see here at the back is a little knot, and I am going to take my Sharpie and just color my thread to match my beads. I have dyed synthetic thread in RIT dye before, which does a good job, but that's a whole lot of trouble when you can just do it this way. All right, so there's our finished piece. Don't be afraid to line up your edge nicely. And boom, there we go. We're all done. Free Palestine.